Hey, what is going on, guys? This is SMEB Reviews, and it's time to take a look at the fifth studio album from Miley Cyrus, Younger Now. Let's get to it. Who saw this one coming? I mean, obviously we did once the singles came out, but who saw coming from Miley Cyrus and her Dead Pets to Younger Now? It was a crazy transition, but honestly, it's well received by me. I mean, I know some people have been kind of critical on it, but honestly, the switch to country pop, folk pop, that kind of genre, honestly is welcomed by me, and I really actually enjoyed this album and think that there's actually a lot to it. It definitely, putting it in genre wise, it's definitely country slash folk pop. Some songs kind of lean more towards folk rather than country, but it definitely all falls under the large country category, but poppy. But it's not like the bro country kind of pop. Like, it's not that disgusting sounding pop that's very generic and just talks about the same stuff. It's pop as in what's currently on the radio sounding, but also it still has those country roots, whereas honestly a lot of that bro country Florida Georgia Line style music kind of leans more towards the country, or more towards the pop rather, with like a country accent or something like that, and that's the difference. I think that this definitely has it's primarily country, just with pop elements, trying to make it a little radio friendly, that kind of thing. And so that's kind of where I'd put this in genre. You know, I can say honestly that I did not think this was going to be a very good album. I heard it and I was like, I just don't see her being able to shake off that image she had of herself. I mean, she really tried to define herself with an image during like the Dead Pets and Bangers era. There was definitely a image she wanted to create. If that's not obvious, then I don't know what is, because she wanted to be this rebellious, shedding that old good girl country attitude, and then here she goes shedding it again. I hate that she just keeps shedding it, but honestly, I think that this was a good switch back into where she should have been. She has a very good voice for this style of country, and it honestly really works well. I think that the shift is a little jarring, but really when listening to this album, it doesn't feel that jarring. To me, what was the most jarring was hearing the singles she released, because while ends up I actually like some of those singles a lot in context with the album, prior to it I was listening to them and it was really hard for me to get into them, just because all I could think about is this girl trying to be all sweet and cute and, you know, down home small town girl, coming from the person who was singing Wrecking Ball and doing everything in that era that I was talking about. And that's really hard. That was a really hard shift. But once I got into this album, I feel like it was natural. I mean, you can hear how genuine she is when she's saying that she's shedding that old self. She feels younger now and she's going back to her roots, and she can't believe that she's still here and still making music, and that she even has the opportunities to make this kind of music. And I think that that's just great, and it's a really good message, honestly. And I really like this going back to her roots kind of movement, because honestly it worked for her, especially in the context of the album. Now, that's not to say that this album's perfect. Lyrically, it is not the best. I mean, there are some very awkward lyrics that really do not sit well to the ear, and then there's also songs that just don't really have those hooks that really grab you and pull you in. But honestly, she still is able to really sell herself. There's some songs like Younger Now, she just belts in that song, and that's a really, really beautiful song, because she sounds so genuine about how she just wants to shed what she was and how she just feels renewed now, and it sounds so genuine, and that it's just great. Now, some songs she doesn't lose how genuine she feels, but she definitely does lose some of that vocal power that we see in Younger Now. There's a lot of deadpan delivery, which is something that kind of put me off on some of the lead singles. Malibu definitely is still a hard listen for me, just because it's very deadpan and I don't feel her voice fits with that. There are certain circumstances where that works, But honestly, I feel like Miley Cyrus does not really have the vocal style or know how to implement it right. I think that it is possible, but especially in Malibu. Malibu's my prime example because I don't like that song very much at all. That's one of the only songs that really does not sit well with me just because it's so awkward and deadpanned, and it's a hard listen to get through, and that's just because it's such a weak vocal delivery. Now, this is not an album that's going to draw in fans from the Bangers and Dead Pets era. I don't see many fans transitioning well. Now, some are going to because of their devotion towards her and really enjoy her as a person, but I don't think musically there's really much to draw because pretty much everything she did with those albums are so different from what she's doing now, and I think that's just going to be a hard transition for a lot of fans. And that's pretty respectable that she would just step out and try to create something, even though some of her fans may not like it. And the definite themes of this album are either love or just, moving on, shedding her old self. And both of those are very predominant, and especially if you do not enjoy those themes, then this is also going to be a hard listen because it's about half and half. About half are about love, and about half is about that moving on. So if those are themes that are not too interesting, then again, it won't really draw you in. It's not too diverse. But saying that, it does still have a lot of strong suits. It's very interesting musically. Even though some of the hooks are not very strong, it is still very fun to listen to. The whole album is just a fun listen and a very enjoyable listen. And Miley really shows some vocal power in a lot of the songs. She does a duet with Dolly Parton, which honestly comes across pretty well. I know that song's been kind of a mixed bag for some people, but honestly, I've really enjoyed it just because it sounds like she's just having fun and she's just enjoying herself, which is something that is just refreshing. Not that I think she wasn't enjoying herself in her past album cycles, but I think that it's just this genuine, like, sober fun and just having a good time and just being happy, and I really enjoy that. And the album really comes across that whole way, as does that song. It's a very fun song and I personally enjoy it. But overall, this album is not bad. It is not bad by any means, which really surprised me and I was very excited about. There are some weaker songs. Thinking definitely is very repetitive, and Inspired definitely gets on the cheesy side, but also as a closer track, it's kind of nice and fitting, and it's just a very, very interesting album. Not interesting in the fact that it's so diverse and does so much, but just interesting in the fact that this is where she went from those past albums, and the emotions that she's feeling are so different than what we're used to, and it's just fun, and it's a fun listen, and it's very enjoyable. Honestly, there are some drawbacks, definitely, but this is a good direction for her, I feel. I feel like she's very comfortable in it, and she's enjoying it. You can hear it in her music. She's enjoying this direction. So I think with another album, honestly, she could have a much better ranked album. I'm going to give this album a 7 out of 10, but honestly, with her next album, if she continues with this direction, I could definitely see it being a higher rating, just because I think this was kind of getting, like, feeling the water and seeing how it would go. And honestly, I think it came off pretty well. I think it comes off very genuine, and I really enjoyed it. But that's what I think about the album. What did you guys think? Did you think it was better or worse than I thought? Were you a fan of Miley Cyrus's before? Or was this a coming in album for you? What did you think? Please leave any comments or suggestions, or either albums or like how I can work better on my videos. And I'll see you guys later.